raise this thing or what? Actually, we may just... You guys can look at my messy toolbox. What's going on, David? Hey, thanks for joining me today. Let's see. I wonder if anybody... Usually it takes a little bit for people to get on here. We'll wait a little bit. Finally getting on this 6-liter I've been meaning to get on for some time. Customer's been real good to me about that. He's not in a big rush for the truck. Whew, it's a warm one here today. It's supposed to be in the hundreds tomorrow. So we'll see what happens there. Trying to fill this. I hate whenever you... There we are. That looks the same. I don't know. Can you hear me okay, or is the AC unit too loud? My head looks awfully shiny right here. Okay. We'll get started on the subject here shortly. Oh, JJ, I get that. Yeah, that's any more with these trucks though, I think the big thing is just their age. You know, it was one thing whenever they were newer, or, you know, say this one's an 05, 06. It's one thing when this was it's 2008, 2010, even 5 years old. You know, age hadn't really gotten to them that much, and it was just engine stuff. But now with age, now you have all kinds of other little things that pile up. And I know I say this a lot, but my King Ranch that I've got to build the engine for, that one is slowly rotting away if I don't get to it. Within this year, in 2023, if I don't get to it, start on it, because I got to do body work on it, because it's starting, the cab corners are starting to rust away. If I don't get started on it, I'll probably look for a cab from something else and put on that chassis, or look for a rolling chassis. That was a northern truck. I'm north to some people. Canada, though, way north from me. But it was a northern truck. I think it came from Wisconsin area, and you can tell that it saw a lot of salt. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, we see a lot of salt. If you leave a truck, you drive a truck only really, like plow trucks around here. They get used in the winter a lot and then sit during the summer, or don't get washed off on a regular basis and sit outside. You definitely see tons of heavy rust. So I plan on pulling the cab to do the engine. I'll probably use that transmission for a while. I'd love to do a thorough rebuild in the transmission, kind of like my 6.0 engine rebuilds. I'd love to do something like that, and that would be very cool. So pull the cab, put the engine in it, but I'll pull the transmission for the time being. The bed is going away. I got a flatbed for it, and I plan on I keep seeing, it's like sandblasting, but you use a pressure washer, so water, and then it sucks sand from somewhere else. I want to try doing that. 2.7 F-150, you'll have to look. I had a friend that just bought one, and then I sold him a programmer for it, and his is an 18. The first model year I wasn't a fan of it being a new model year. We saw a lot of issues with the first model year of that engine, but now it's been a really good engine. You know, you're going to get the people that have issues here and there with them, just like anything. But I've seen a lot of customers drive 2.7s and just absolutely love them. They say for that small little V6 with the turbos on it, it actually has pretty good power. Now, if you plan on towing like a camper, I'd probably look at the 3.5. But I don't have anything off the top of my head that would be a negative for the 2.7, other than the first year. I think that was in 16, but double check that. So, trying to think. I need to get. I've been pushing jobs off, which sounds crazy. I should be trying to take on as many jobs, but I've been pushing jobs off. I really want to get on my engine and start assembling it. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll really like it. They were, especially the 2.7 with the aluminum body. I mean, there's not much. I think I heard max savings that Ford gained with the aluminum body was around 500 pounds, which doesn't seem like much, but you shed 500 pounds and you're pushing almost 300 horsepower, and whereas I don't know if they offered the 2.7 in the steel body. It may not have worked that good, basically the power to weight ratio. But anyway, I think people liked them a lot. I like the aluminum body, truthfully. At first, I wasn't a big fan of it, but I do like it. I have a 13 F-150. I don't know what it is, but I really like the 09 to, 14 body style. I'm a fan of that. But, no, I really like the aluminum. I'm not a fan of the newer stuff. Like, I think it's 21 and newer F-150s. I get irritated with companies when they're constantly tweaking on things, and they don't make big changes, but they make big enough changes where they're constantly messing with stuff from year to year, and it drives me nuts when they do that. Stick with something, play it out for a while. Probably a part of me hates that, because working for Ford for a long time, Ford would make a big change, and then the following year make another change. And the first year might have been working, and then whatever change they made was just absolutely junk. They had, failure rates were high on things, and sadly they wouldn't ever go back. They would adapt the new one and just stick with it. And it's like it's just dumb. And it never benefited us. We never made good money off that stuff. So that, and hey Dunbar, I also don't like that in the motorcycle world. I prefer Honda motorcycles, four-wheelers. Their cars are good too, but they're in the motorcycle world. Honda. My brother worked in a motorsports place for a while. He could probably rattle off how long they usually hold on to their designs, but Honda would usually hold on to a design for quite a while and would, fine-tune things before then they made a major change, a new model for a certain year. And Suzuki, Kawasaki, and Yamaha would always battle each other. And it was funny, Honda may drop off with power, or the suspension wasn't as good, but Honda didn't put the money into R&D, until several years later. And it's not like they were dropping off and they were junk motorcycles or ATVs. It's just they didn't have all the top specs or whatever on things. And then whenever they'd come out with a new one, they'd blow everybody out of the water and everybody play catch up. And to me, if you're playing the long game, you might as well do it the way Honda's doing it, in my eyes. But, okay, we'll get on the topic of, should you pull a cab, or would you pull a cab on any vehicle? Well, truck primarily, because you can't pull the cab. Anyway, pulling a cab on a truck. If any of you all saw from pictures, should you or could you pull it with anything else? I particularly, unless I had something else like 2 gantry lifts. So you had, the gantry lifts that you can, basically it's like the shape of a car rack. It's a big 2 posts on the side, 1 beam support in the center, and you have a chain hoist or 2 from that. If I had 2 gantry lifts and each one had a chain hoist on each one of them to where I could lift from 4 corners, I'd do it that way. But other than that, that's the chances of having a place with that or overhead hoist like that is pretty slim. But I would not. If you all saw from the pictures from my post, my community post, there were people. There's one that the guy was trying to use a limb off of a tree. That was crazy. Another one, I think he had 3 engine hoists, 1 at the front and 2 on either side of the rear. That was crazy. Somebody used cinder blocks and kept working up and mounting. I mean, I guess that wouldn't be so bad, but you'd still have to go a little bit each time, and it's just that much weight up top and not supported very well. I wouldn't do it. I'm getting ready to pull the cab on this one, and it's just, I had one customer last summer that I did heads on, and he it was probably a week before he was bringing the truck to me, and he called me up and asked me if we're still on, for the date, and that he was dropping it off. And then he started asking me questions about the job, and he says his buddy was telling him that I was probably going to have to pull the cab to do the job, and he really didn't want that, and I said, yeah, that's the only way I do these, because it cuts down on stress on my body, and it makes the job just so much easier. Once you get the cab out of the way, you're right there working. Even pulling the cylinder heads off, you can pull them off, hold them to your chest, your stomach area, and then put them somewhere comfortably. You're not bending over, you're not trying to get stuff in and out of the engine bay. And I said, that's the only way I do it, and if you don't want me to do it, you can take it somewhere else. And he instantly, no, I want you to do the work. I said, okay, I'm getting to a point anymore that it's not worth my time to cater to somebody that has asked me to do a job drastically different because they feel as though they know better. I've been doing it long enough to know that I don't know everything. I don't claim to, but I've done these jobs enough that I don't want to lean over a fender or grill the whole time and then try to hook. I know people that pull these cylinder heads out without an engine hoist, but I'm not one that's going to try it. I've been lifting weights and really active over the years that there's just some things you just shouldn't do. And that's, for me, that's one of them. There's no point in taking a chance of hurting myself. Yeah, you're having the same attitude. Yeah, there's no point in hurting yourself because somebody thinks that you can do it. His big fear was he was going to have a lot of squeaks and rattles afterwards because the cab coming off was going to disrupt a lot of things. And I told him, I said, you're not going to know. I said, if I didn't tell you I was pulling the cab, I guarantee you wouldn't even know. And he's been driving the truck for over a year now, or a year or whatever it's been now, and hasn't said a word about anything that I know of. He's the type of customer, I'm sure if there was something that he would notice, he would definitely bring it back and let me know. And I gladly look into it. I stand behind my work completely. Probably a little too much at times, but I always try to put myself in the customer's position. There's times where I've seen stuff and the customer goes, I figured that should have lasted longer, and you get to looking into it, and it's something external or something somewhere, and you can find that there's abuse. Not that they may intentionally abuse it, but they may, maybe it's a suspension part or something, and they got stuck in the mud and they had to get pulled out and something got damaged. That happens. And then at that point, I'd usually talk to the customer. I'd say, hey, I found this. This looks like it's been damaged somehow. And if they're oh yeah, it does look like that, I'll be like, you pay for the part, I'll take care of the labor, just to help you out. And that right there to me is just a good customer service thing. You know, if they did it again, okay, you're paying for the part and paying for the labor this time. If it's something, if I try to use Ford parts on a lot of things, but there's times when you don't, you know, you're kind of in a rush, you don't get the opportunity to be able to get a Ford part, or the customer chooses not to. And if it's in those cases, the customer chooses not to use a Ford part when I specifically want to use a Ford part, that's on them. And I will stand behind the part on the manufacturer's warranty. I think with O'Reilly, a lot of times, that's who I primarily use. It's usually labor is covered the first 6 months. But again, if I'm doing a repair and I don't use a Ford part or the manufacturer's part, then a lot of times if that part fails, I'll just stand behind it completely on a lot of things, just because if I made the decision to use that part and it fails, that's to me that's my responsibility in a way. So. Oh, 100%. 100%. Oh, bringing in Amazon parts. I've had customers do both of those, and it's been a long time since I have. More of that was happening when I was doing used car work. Used car salesmen have too much time on their hands, and then they always want parts dirt cheap, and they will source parts anywhere. I used to do work for a shop or a used car lot in near me that is no longer in business, not because they were shady by any means. They were a little bit, and it was biting him in the butt, truthfully. So he was slowly making his move to not do this. But sadly enough, he passed away from a unexpected freak accident, and so his wife shut the business down. But he was on 6 liters, and I was coming in towards, I think I did some work for him for about a year and a half or so. He was putting Amazon special oil coolers in 6.0s. I mean, he would do a bunch of other stuff to fix them. At that time, he was doing EGR deletes, and you could buy them off Amazon or eBay like crazy for dirt cheap. And he was doing that. He had a mechanic too at his shop that full time that was doing that work for a while. And I didn't do any EGR deletes for him. Most of the trucks I got. A lot of times I'd specify that I didn't want to do them because I didn't want to get in that. For years, I'd seen enough coming on the emission side that I didn't want anything to do with it, deleting anything. So I didn't do it, and I would do tons of repair, and I'd say, you can just have your guy do that one thing, and he was fine with that. But what was it? He was buying O'Reilly or Amazon oil coolers, and quickly, from what you guys have probably heard too, we were seeing oil leaks from the gaskets failing. So he then started buying the cheap oil coolers, but then would buy Ford gasket kits for them. And then he had a couple customers that I think locally, that the oil coolers failed in a short period of time, and he started actually putting Ford ones in, and that was, I think, around the time that the Ford ones dropped in price a little bit. They became more affordable, and so it was just, thankfully, he learned from his mistakes. He was trying to save money to make some money, but he learned from his mistakes, and since seeing all that stuff, I don't go cheap on parts, really, especially on the diesel. Ask them if they're taking. Oh, yeah, I've been there. I've had a lot of used car places that go, I'm just taking it to the auction. I just need to make it to the auction. And I'll go, I can get it there. You know, that's a slippery slope as a mechanic too, because you can, if I was doing used car lot work, I'll tell you what, used car lot work is a easy way to get experience very quick, but you also have to have a good knack for looking at things and repairing it as cheap and quick as possible. So for side work for years, I don't do any used car work anymore because I hate it. And if a used car guy does get a hold of me, I bid it just like I do to a customer, because I have to stand behind the work, because that's what the price I'm selling it for. And no, I'm being interrupted. You can leave him in, because they're dropping that white Expedition off. No, they're just gonna drop it off. I leave him in. Yes, he's probably gonna want to go out with you. Just a second. Wife is interrupted. Oh, she said so sorry. Huh? Don't mind her. Now I forgot what I was talking about. That's not her problem. It is kind of your problem. No, he needs to stay in. Why don't? Yeah, they're probably not here yet. Okay, take them up with you. So, doing the used car work, that was a slippery slope, because you'll see a lot of stuff. You'll work on a ton of cars, get your hands into all kinds of stuff, and it's good experience. Oh, okay. But you'll kind of get in this mentality of fix everything as cheap as possible, and then the used car guys will get so used to you doing things so cheap, and finding cheap parts, cheap labor, quick fix, that I've had guys that say they're going to take it to the auction, and they don't. And then if it fails, they want you to stand behind your work, and you're like, you told me this was going to the auction, and the only reason I did that was so you could run it to the auction block. Then that's a moral thing too, because you know that they're making money on it at the auction, or at least getting rid of the car, and it's going to somebody else that's going to break again. So it's false advertisement in a way, but you get in a situation where that used car guy then starts figuring out that, hey, he's going to fix it for cheap, and I can flip it real easy and make some money. And if they flip it, sell it to somebody local, well, then when it breaks again, they bring it back to you, or they tell the person where. Well, I'll tell you what, that got under my skin. They'd tell the people where it was repaired at, and it's like, that was not a real repair. But then it also puts you in this mentality of, whenever you look at regular customer cars, you can do a repair, but it's not a real good repair. It's not a long-term repair, and so you have to train yourself to get in and out of that. And the reason I've pushed it away is I'm sick of getting into that, and I don't want to be in that mentality. I want to look at everything and repair everything to the best that I can. That way the customer has a long fix and they don't have that issue again. So yeah, that's what I do. Just 1 second. Oh, just walking around, I can tell it's still warm in here. Oh, well. Maybe if I turn my AC down a little bit, it was set on 84, which is better than outside. It's over 90. But kicked it down. Hopefully it cools down a little bit more. So I don't know how I got off on a rant of other stuff. You guys have been around me enough to know that I can basically talk to this camera for hours. So, and then get off subject and not remember where I got off. But yeah, I personally would not lift a cab without a rack. It's just too stable. Why would you want to deal with something that you could take a chance of the cab falling off? I mean, don't get me wrong. I've seen plenty of stuff almost fall off racks, but if you strap to it, you go up, you're used to doing it, why take the chance? So, I don't know. Now, if I didn't have a rack and I needed to do this repair for my own vehicle, my own truck, say I worked somewhere, I had experience doing these kind of jobs or big jobs like this, you know, tearing into engines, but I didn't have a place to do it, or I didn't have a rack to lift the cab, then I would probably pull the grill, the bumper, and that way I could get into the engine bay and work comfortably. And then I would still use a cherry picker to pull the cylinder head off. I'd pull the heater box out of the way, but pulling the cab is just the way to go. There's a reason why Ford then adapted to that practice on the 2008-2010, because they shoehorned a giant engine into a truck, and that was really the easiest way to work on those. And to this day, from 11 to present on the Super Duties, a lot of the repairs have a in-cab or cab on, cab off procedure. And that's just, they adapted to it, knew that the cabs would have to be pulled for certain things. I think even the engines, a lot of times they recommend to pull the cab. I always did on even the 6.7 trucks. It was just so much easier. Get the cab up. That was such a big engine, and you can't really strip a lot off of it to make it smaller. They've done a real good job of packaging it, and it's just pull the cab, strip it, pull it out. It was just way easier to do it that way. On this truck, I know I haven't put a video out, but I'm going to record on this truck and cover a ton of stuff that are just, I'm going to try to make short videos and go over things that are common failure points on these engines. So, you know, look for this. I probably won't be able to show it, but I am going to do injector nipples and O-rings. What else do I have? I think I might do I need to check the connection at the high pressure pump. I'd imagine this has probably got the updated one on it, but I want to make sure. I'm going to do, I don't know if I'm going to do all the O-rings on the injectors. I don't know if I'm going to touch the internal. I think there's 2 internal O-rings on the injector, maybe 1. I'm going to do most of the O-rings on the injectors on this one, just to cover that. I'll do basically the standpipes, D-plugs, all of that, just to make sure just all of it fresh for this guy. That way we don't have any issues. And if there is an issue down the road, you know, I'll stand behind it. I know I've touched it. But I'm going to go over all the things, probably show a little bit of everything that I do. But I'm going to try, I don't know. I'm still trying to think of how to make videos into each little thing. Maybe I'll just say common failure point for a 6.0 Power Stroke. And I'll have a bunch of just 5-minute or so videos and do that. I'm trying to, I know I haven't put a video out, but I'm still working on things. And I'm trying to make videos more attractive to watch. Like something that I actually enjoy watching as well, or I look at it and go, hey, that's very helpful. I actually just did a sunroof motor on my sister-in-law's 13 Explorer and it's got the big panoramic sunroof where it's panoramic where the glass goes further back, but only the front sunroof moves. But her issue was water getting into the leaking over whenever it would rain outside. And so basically the water was not draining properly, or too much water was coming in. And one of the things that I ran into at the dealership seeing that, because it didn't matter if I was working on a diesel one week, I got handed bullcrap repairs because they knew the job would get repaired. They knew that I would do that. So just basically they knew I cared about what I do, and I wanted to repair. It didn't matter what the job was. I want to make a quality repair. So I would spend the time diagnosing things. Didn't mean I ever got paid for everything. But I learned a lot whenever, even a low mileage vehicle, depending on the area that it's in, if it runs a lot of gravel roads and they have a sunroof, if they park under trees, see a lot of debris, that basically it cakes in the seal, between the seal of the sunroof and the body. Enough junk gets in there where it creates a gap on the seal, so the seal won't be, like that. There might be junk in there, and it opens up just enough. And so I spent a long time cleaning out between the sunroof and stuff. And whenever you do that, you have to. What I'll do is spray window cleaner on all the cracks, and I'll work a rag in there with a screwdriver and slide it back and forth until that's clean. And then once you knock a lot of that junk off, you may get some big chunks in areas, and so I take a blowgun and I blow around so it all falls down into the sunroof track or the drain area. Then I need to take it to a car wash or turn on the hose and run it to make sure we're basically some water. The way the sunroofs are designed is they know they're going to leak. That's why they have the drains in there. But basically your goal is to a controlled leak. And so the seals getting dirt in them will allow more than the controlled amount of water that they designed it for. So I'm pretty sure that's what was going on. The bad thing with the panoramic one is it's a stationary glass, but it still uses the same seal as the glass that moves. So it can still get dirt built up in there, so you need to clean all that. We replaced the motor. We think the motor failed due to water getting into it from it leaking. But whenever I started running the sunroof back and forth, you could just hear it moving slow and grinding. So I sprayed some lube in it, cleaned it up some, and seems like it's going to help a lot. So I really should have made a video just going over that cleaning, because just a short, 5-minute video. Hey, here's a quick thing you can do on a sunroof to keep it from leaking. It's and that doesn't even require dropping the headliner. I had to drop the headliner to replace the motor, and at that point I pulled all of the drain hoses and blew those out and made sure they were free on the sunroof side. But you don't even have to do that. If you're gonna I would clean the tracks or the seal first, and I could have made a 5-minute video. I should have. I'd like to do more things like that just to add value. I already make videos on a lot of stuff, giving my knowledge and stuff on things, what I've ran into. But I tend to make long 15, 20, 30-minute videos, and they're not always they're not really entertaining videos to follow along. If you're looking for detail, sometimes that's a good video to watch, but if you're looking for some quick little information detail, I don't have those videos, and I really need to start making more stuff like that, because myself, like I said, I'm not enjoying some of the videos I'm putting out. So that's what I've been working on a lot, is trying to spend the time, get quicker. I'm wanting to get quicker at whenever I see a job I have to do, I can look at it and go, okay, how could I spin that, not towards I'm lying to you all, but how can I make that seem interesting? How can I compress that into a shorter video and add the value that you want and still make it somewhat entertaining? That's the goal. So I just don't know how to do that at all. So I haven't even really been recording much of my personal stuff lately, just because it's been so hot. I haven't done a whole lot outside. I have some hay videos I need to do, but that was a letdown because I only had 43 bales, and we're in a drought right now, and I'm watering my pastures, or pasture, the main one that really produces good hay. I'm randomly watering it, but like right now, it being 90 plus degrees outside and no clouds, I know I can turn on the sprinkler and it's just going to evaporate once it, on the ground. And there's a breeze out there, so it's going to evaporate pretty quick. So, yeah. I'm trying to think anything else on this truck. I think this truck had a battery draw as well. And he was having trouble getting it to me because he couldn't keep the batteries up. They drained down so far that he couldn't even get them charged. And it did it to me once I got it here. And he has an aftermarket sub amp hooked up. It's just sitting in the back seat of this box. I don't understand that. Whenever I was a kid, I would have got it, but now I don't know. So I think he wired it himself, and when I pulled the batteries out to charge them, I didn't hook that up. Well, since I didn't hook that up, this truck has sat longer than previously, and the batteries haven't gone dead. So it's always funny when people install stuff like that. It's never never had that issue before. I'm like, you think it's the sub wiring, for the subwoofer? No, I don't think so. I don't see how that could be it. Sometimes you just have to do it yourself. Disconnect it and prove to the customer sometimes. You can go, I disconnected it and I've had it for a week and it hasn't done anything. If you want to come pick it up, we'll reconnect it and you can drive it. And then this crazy thing is they're like, yeah, okay. And then they call you a day or two later. Yeah, the batteries are dead again. I wonder what it could. I'm like, charge your batteries, disconnect your sub. You can live without listening to heavy bass for a week. Drive the truck. If you disconnect that and you don't have dead batteries, I don't know. People are just something else. I'm extreme. Well, that's a perfect example. My wife and I were talking. She's having lower back problems, and we're both in our 30s, which I think this is the start of, you start to get complacent and you're not as active as you really should be to keep up your health and keep from having injuries, keeping your muscles up. And she had an issue with her back, it was over a year ago, and then it went away. But now it's been acting up a lot, so she's going to the chiropractor. Well, she started finally figuring out that there's one pair of shoes she would wear to work, and she's a nurse, so she works 12-hour shifts. She's, moving a lot. But I say moving a lot, but she's on her feet a lot. And she noticed one pair of shoes, her back didn't hurt while she wore these shoes, and her back hurt that day, or started to hurt. And she had mentioned that. And she's been to the chiropractor since, and she went a couple days without wearing those shoes. We'll wear them again, and she's naturally, okay, it could be the whole problem all along. I don't know how new these shoes are. I'm the type of person that I go to the other extreme where I don't have to see it over and over to go, I don't want that. She gets a kick out of it. I can eat something, and it's kind of new. It's not normally what I eat. I may eat it and get a stomach ache, or I don't feel good, and she may then bring up a few weeks later, a month or two later, I'm thinking about making this. I'm like, no, I don't want that. Why not? Well, my stomach didn't feel good, or I didn't feel good after I ate that. And she's like, you think that maybe try it again? I'm like, I don't really want to take a chance. I'm just extreme like that. I don't know. I'm crazy. So who knows why I'm that way. Aftermarket stereo worth $200, factory rated 2000. So true. So true. Well, they were, the crazy thing is when the manufacturers were still using the bin, singular double bin radios, they were actually getting somewhat affordable. When they would fail, I mean, even if a lot of times you could send them in and have them repaired, I remember, and it might be, or you'd have a refurbished, basically. You'd send that one and they'd send another one. And it might be in the $600 range, but it's better than that $200 that almost guaranteed to have a failure. I can attest that worn shoes will make you hurt. I get 6 months of shoes. I'm starting to see that. I have a pair of shoes. My wife buys me a new pair of, I don't know what these are. They're, what are they? Brooks. I think they're made in America, or they're supposed to be. And so I'm all for supporting any business or company that makes in America. And you guys can, made in Indonesia. Well, I've been lied to. Anyway, she likes Brooks. And I said, sure, she can find pretty good deals. And just a tennis shoe, running shoe, I don't know, whatever you want to call them. And I'm wearing through these. These were relatively new this year. She got them, I think, right before summer for me. And I've noticed lately walking around in them that they don't have the support they used to. I feel like whenever I was younger, I could make a pair of shoes last for like 2-3 years. And now then again, I'd spend $100 on a pair of tennis shoes where I won't now. So that might have a little bit to do with it. Pair of boots, my Justins that I wear, my Ropers, those I actually will usually hold on to. Once I break those in, they feel really good. So, yep. Okay, hold on. I think there's a customer here. I need to go talk to them real quick. I'll be right back. And you guys can get a kick out of this. Greco. I think his hair is all raised up. Whenever people come around, oh no. Hey, come here. You sit. 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 Stay. No. Stay. No. Stay. Okay, sorry about that. I thought I was hoping he would entertain you guys, but that didn't work, did it? So I appreciate everybody sticking around while I took care of a customer, or they were dropped the keys off with me. So I do appreciate that. I know think I think another reason I want to make good videos is I look at everybody that watches my stuff as customers, and I want to give you a good experience as well. I want you to watch the video and enjoy it, or even if you don't enjoy it, it may not be entertaining to you guys because I'm not the most comical person. I want you to at least get some value from it. That's the way in my head it works. So you guys, the more people that view it, if I'm creating good value or good entertainment for you all, then more people will watch. It'll take off, and I think, you know, in my eyes, that's a business too. So I appreciate that, Dunbar. Yeah, no, I know that most of the guys that watch me have their own shops, or they're in business where customer service, you get into this because the cars, you want to make the cars work, you want to make them run, you enjoy working with your hands, everything like that. And the longer you're in it, I've noticed this is really more of a customer base business. You pay attention to the customer, you listen to the customer when they bring you the car, you do your best then to figure out if it's something you have to really drive and figure out what the customer's talking about. You want to make sure you get good information, you want to listen to them really well, and then you want to make sure you fix it properly, you make a happy customer in a reasonable time, or even if it takes longer, you have to communicate with the customer. And it's really a customer-based business, and if you have happy customers, you'll stay busy, which that's probably one of the reasons why I don't put out more videos, is I probably answer my phone way too much, and I'm trying to get now to where I don't answer my phone at all on Sundays if people call me. I'm trying to create business hours. After a certain time, I won't answer. Time of the day, I won't respond to text messages. Now, this one I did. We had scheduled that they would drop off on Wednesday. They were supposed to be here probably around 4:30, and right before I was starting the stream, he called and texted, and I missed it, but then I got back with him. And so in that case, I'm going to communicate with him because they were supposed to be here anyway. But new people, a lot of times I'll see it and I'll just respond to them the next day. It's just, I try to give a lot. That way, in return, customers keep coming back and feel comfortable with me. So it's amazing to anybody getting into this industry. I don't remember this ever being stressed very much, customer service, until I started working with technicians that had been doing this for a long time, and they understood. So if I have a 60 VT365 question, I know that you'll give me a genuine. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'll probably go down a path of basically a ramble of talking about how I have a theory on something. I don't know if I'd love to be able to test things and have more time to do that and be able to then go, I tested that, and you actually want to do this repair. So I'd love to do things like that. That would be so cool. But I don't have enough time to do everything like that. But yeah, no, I'll give you my honest answer. Or if I haven't seen it, then I'll sit here and speculate in my head and go over the system. That's another thing I wish whenever I was in college for automotive, or I went through, was it 2 years of auto tech in high school, which was very crude. They taught you things, but I feel like the schools could do better at structuring and explaining how you need to learn. I know everybody's different, but let me explain here in a second. So a lot of times they go, okay, we're going to start going over the exhaust system. We'll explain the exhaust system. How does the exhaust system work? Does anybody know how the exhaust system works? It's the engine burns air and fuel, and it needs a place to go. Well, not exactly. You know, I don't really agree with that to an extent, because I could teach somebody to repair this without them really knowing how, you know, repair a vehicle without them really knowing how a system works. And I think the way they go about it, they should explain. You need to understand how, general understanding of how everything on the vehicle works. And then you need to have a general understanding of specifically that vehicle's system that you're chasing. So we have a check engine light. The check engine light is for a low boost. Okay. So first thing people go, they go, do I need a new turbo? Here's a good example. I'm on Facebook groups for 6.0, 6.4, 6.7, several groups, and it's always, I have this code, what does it mean? And you'll start seeing people chime in, oh, you need a new turbo. And it's like, that code doesn't mean you need a new turbo. You could have a boost leak. You could have an exhaust leak. Turbos are run off exhaust. And you need to understand the system and how it works. And then you can start looking at the things to basically start getting data, whether it be visually or with a computer or with your hands, and you take that information in and go, okay, you jump up in the truck, in the engine bay, you start feeling couplers, you start looking for obvious things. Okay, I don't see any issues there. Okay, do I see any exhaust leaks? I don't see any exhaust leaks. Okay, let's start the engine, or let's check for codes. Other than that, do you have another code? Because you could have a low boost code, and that's what the average person may look at and say, oh, that's the problem, having low boost, low power. Well, they also have an exhaust back pressure sensor circuit code, which is a direct input to the computer on how that turbo is going to react. So if the engine, you can rev the engine up and the exhaust back pressure sensor is not seeing the pressure rise, it's not going to correct fueling and adjust the turbo properly. If it's got a wastegate system, it may let the wastegate stay open more. It's just all kinds of stuff in there. And as long as you can verify the concern, understand the system, inspect the system, and find your failure, I wish they would teach that. They would have taught me in school kind of a better thing. Ford did a very good job in their curriculum, that they had something like that, and I never understood. They didn't really drive into you what it was, and what was it? It was symptom, component to cause. I think SSCC. I think it was symptom, system, component, cause. And I think other companies use this, or other curriculums. Ford may have had their own little saying, but it was basically that, where it was what's the symptom, what system is that symptom coming from, or what is causing the symptom, what has failed, so what the component, and what caused that component to fail. That's a huge part of it, and that's a really good way of putting it. If I tried to use that in videos when I was making something, I'd probably have to check to make sure nobody has that patented. Because the last thing I want to do is have to put up a bunch of videos and pull them down. So probably need to look into that. But I could probably swing something some way. and make it work. Never see a code for VT365 exhaust pressure, but clean it into. Yeah, that is. I'm with you there. That the a lot of these systems, these older ones with the 6.0 VT365, didn't have, as long as if it was plugged and the computer didn't see anything with the voltage on the exhaust back pressure sensor, and it wouldn't have the PID data, or PID, I guess, what would you call it, algorithm, to where if it saw a certain kind of load on the engine and wasn't seeing the boost or input from the pedal, and so if I sit down and look at how the computer figures in how to go through its process of creating power from the engine, it may not have it built into the algorithm where it says, I'm not seeing any information from this sensor over here, and that's our direct input to know whether we need to open the vanes or close the vanes, and to create boost or no boost. I don't think a lot of those have it. I think the 6.0 has it, and they will sometimes refer to like correlation, EBP, exhaust back pressure correlation. So that is, if I remember correctly, basically when key on, engine off, this computer is supposed to do a quick snapshot of data, and it should look at your exhaust back pressure, your map sensor, compare it to your baro, and I think that's it on these as pressure sensors. And if one of those is off from what it normally wants to see, or say one is higher than the other two, or one is lower than the other two, then it will give you a correlation code. But the weird thing is this early of a computer on these, you could also get ghost codes whenever you see concerns, and those will send you down rabbit holes that a lot of times that's why, big thing Ford would always do, and I got in the habit, and mentally, you go to check codes, you write down your codes or screenshot something, clear your codes, and go drive it, or at least try to get the symptom to happen again, even if it's something that just happens, when you start the engine. Do it again, and basically you're trying to get it to set that one code or get rid of all of the codes and see which one comes back. I've had concerns that didn't set the code that actually directly tells you, that basically links to that failure, but it gives you other junk codes. And sometimes you just clearing and going back and checking doesn't always get you down the right trail either. You learn that from years of working on cars. It's just sometimes you don't need to go look or treat every code as though it's directly related to your concern. I actually recently, I need to put that video together as well. I need to edit to where it's a quicker informational video. On my F-150, I had variable cam timing issues, and I also had a low boost code. Well, go figure, you could get that code, low boost, with variable cam timing concerns, and I'll hopefully explain that in the video. But the way with a gasoline engine, I don't know if diesel will ever go that way. It'd probably be awesome if they did, because they could probably do some pretty radical stuff with diesels if they brought in variable cam timing. And maybe they do have that on other diesels in other countries. But the reason you can get low boost with variable cam timing is when applying boost to an engine, you don't want any overlap in the cam. So you don't want your intake opening as your exhaust is closing. So you don't want those valves open at the same time, because boost will then create what I think in the EcoBoost strategy is called blow through, what Ford calls it. And so they account for blow through, you're going to get some blow through, but if you have your cams in an overlap position in a boosted vehicle, you're going to get a lot of blow through. Your engine's not going to be able to build boost. And so what I think was happening is default, the engine was going into a failure management mode, and I believe it was keeping the cams basically in a position that was creating a lot of overlap. So you would go to accelerate and there was no power. So it's once you think about that, you completely understand it. Surprisingly, the engine runs, it still runs okay. It didn't run rough. It was just loss of power from the concern. And okay, talking a lot, I'm yawning. So that, again, if you understand the system, you can understand why that code sets as well. Crazy thing is, you think that the manufacturer would make it to where that code would not set if the VCT goes into a failure mode, but I don't know. You can't. I don't expect engineers to be perfect, because look how many times there wouldn't be mechanics if engineers were perfect. So yeah, can't expect them to be perfect. So yeah, my brain just sometimes I feel like I should have been an engineer, because I love getting into the deep nitty gritty of stuff. But then I tried to learn that area, and I tried to learn tuning, and I still would love to do it, but there is very little information out there. I think there's more if you know how to read patents on automotive things specifically. So if I was getting heavy into tuning on the 6.0, which I've done some looking at the strategy, I've played with some, I've helped some friends with stuff, I need to look into it. Sorry, it makes it sound like I'm bored with this, but I'm not. I enjoy talking about this stuff. It's probably because I'm talking a lot. So what I need to do is look up patents that there were on the VT365 and Ford's operating system for the 6-liter Power Stroke. And a lot of times in those patents, they have to specifically write out information on how the system works. That way they can patent the information. That way somebody doesn't come along and tweak stuff or steal their information. The reason I know about that is deep dive into EcoBoost and Coyote stuff that I was looking into. The Ford speed density calculations are actually in patents, because it's what is it? They refer to it as they use a quadratic equation, and it's extremely complicated, but their speed density works just, driving, Ford used to be a mass airflow based engine operating system. So you have the mass airflow sensor, it calculates the amount of air coming into the engine, and you get very precise fueling. Well, ever since they now have gone to a lot of turbocharged, mass airflow doesn't work great in boosted applications, because if you get a boost leak somewhere, then the mass airflow does not account for the boost leak. And so then the mass airflow will say, I have this much air coming in, I need this much fuel, but you actually don't have that much air coming in, because the turbocharger compresses, you have a boost leak somewhere, and you're losing, say, 5 PSI. The turbo's sucking in through the mass airflow this amount of air, but it's losing half that air because it's blowing it out of boot somewhere or a leak somewhere else. And so you don't get good fueling. But with mass airflow, it reads off of intake air temperature and manifold absolute pressure, MAP sensor, on the intake manifold and in other areas of the engine bay or a part of the charged air cooler system. And with that, then they can see pressure drop and calculate fueling much better, and their systems work very, very well. I would almost say, from what I've seen, that Ford's speed density system works extremely well. Even on low boost issues, you get a very smooth running engine and a safe running engine compared to other manufacturers that I've talked to people on. So Ford, you can look in these patents for, I think the patents were out way before the EcoBoost or Coyote even came out, and they were working on it then. So you take the deep dive into that stuff. I still to this day have not figured out how to do the mathematics to do the quadratic equation to understand the numbers that Ford has in their strategy. It's extremely complicated. And finding anybody that actually knows it, they will even tell you, it's easier just to do this. This company offers a calculator. And so I'm the type of person that I want to know exactly, if I'm gonna make changes, I want to almost be able to, I don't want to rely on that calculator to spit out the right information. I want to double check that. That way, if I use the calculator and it's not quite right, if I double check it, then I can find the area where I made the mistake using the calculator. Maybe I fat fingered something and it didn't, I put the basically wrong information in, and I can see that. So if I can do the equation myself, then I can see where I messed up. So I didn't know that Ford went back to speed density. They did. Yeah. So a lot of their engines, basically any EcoBoost is speed density. The only vehicle I know that is still MAF is the Mustang, the 5.0 Mustang. If I remember correctly, the V6 may have been the last V6, but the EcoBoost Mustang is speed density, and they work extremely well. We used to, I remember when I first got into working on cars and, working at Ford and learning the systems and everything, because Ford was primarily naturally aspirate, actually. I don't remember any, they were supercharged, but they were still mass airflow based. And if you had a vacuum leak or fuel trims off, you were constantly looking for a leak in the intake air system somewhere, and you were constantly doing that. Well, ever since they went speed density, very rarely the engine can adapt to that leak. And the worst thing you'll do now in a turbocharged system is you're normally looking for the source that is causing the low power, because normally it is you either have an exhaust leak somewhere, you're not building the boost, or you have a leak from the turbo to the intake manifold, and you're looking for that. A lot of times you're pressurizing or you're smoke testing, just like on a diesel. And I think I was able to adapt to the EcoBoost so well, and a lot of times I would get problem child EcoBoost issues because I was so used to working on diesels. It just kind of went hand in hand. One, you have a spark plug, one you don't. But you still use turbocharger, you're still boosting the engine. If you're low on power, it's usually a pretty good indication. And understanding the system allows you to repair the system much better. So that, I feel like we've talked about way more than lifting the cab, but I don't know. I know I have to lift the cab on this, so it was on my mind whenever I made the post. I don't know. It's just what I was thinking. Need to get some of my addiction here. I don't know what my deal is with what is this, sparkling water. but I'm addicted to it. I think it is because it gives me the feeling of drinking the soda without drinking the soda. I won't go down that rabbit hole with you all on, well, I'll say it, but all the chemicals and all the stuff just freaks me out. It's bad enough I work on vehicles and get chemicals on my hands and I'm around it a lot. But then you start learning about all the chemicals in food that's just not real. You know, we think our food is food. It all grows out of the ground. We mix it together and we make something. But the amount of fake chemicals or fake ingredients that companies have made and then sell us, tell us that it's safe to eat. I won't go down that with you. I won't go into that. We see enough of that stuff on the internet. But I try to eat very safe, and so that's why I basically cut soda out. Occasionally I have a soda, but it's just I don't get too strict, but to me, if you cut most of it out, then you're a lot better. I didn't know you're going to have to video the cab lift. You all want me to? Okay, so if you want me to record it, do you want me to just show lifting the cab off, or do you actually want like details? I've been thinking about making a video on details, but there's so much. It takes me a couple hours to do it. It just depends on how. The two things that I fight the most are transmission lines and the cab mounts. That is always the biggest headache and takes the longest to me. I can knock out either side of the engine bay disconnecting things usually in no time. I've done it so much. All of it. You all actually want all of it. Okay, so to make a bearable video, because you're not going to want to watch almost 2 hours of me doing this, doing that, I won't even probably talk in the video, and I'll probably put the camera up and try to get angles at exactly what I'm doing. And then I'll probably do a voiceover and probably voiceover saying what I'm doing on this. And if it's something that's kind of a pain, I'll try to go into detail of little things you have to do, like the transmission lines. What was it? 04 and a half and up, 05. No, 05, because I think it depends on the axle. I don't know, I could be wrong. But they went from the transmission cooler lines that actually bolt in, or they have a flange that you screw into the radiator. They went to the quick connect, and the quick connect I absolutely hate. I hate it so much because there's nothing that works perfect. Because those quick connects are not set up like a fuel line quick disconnect. They have a little clip in there that is a pain to deal with, and I hate them. Hate them. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate them as much as a 6.4, but I don't look forward to it. But I'll try to get everything. Details people are looking for on YouTube. Lots of cab lifts on. I was wondering that. I've done a little research. It's gotten to the point now, I don't watch a lot of 6-liter stuff because I've done so much of it. I find I'm going to use a word that a lot of people are using now, but cringy. So I hate watching some people work on these trucks because the way they go about it, they try to tell you a certain way of doing something, and I've done it enough now that there's another way to do it. I know for the most part, I know what they're doing is kind of not a good repair or not a good way at going about it. And I may do something different than somebody else, but a lot of times I'll explain this is the way I've had good success doing this. There's other ways to do it, but my goal long term is longevity for my customer. I don't, well, that for me to make money, I don't want to have a customer driving the vehicle and it fail, and then I'm liable for it and I'm liable for the repair costs. So that's the way I look at stuff. Safety and cost on my part long term that I have to stand behind. And when I see people do stuff sometimes, I don't agree with a lot of it, so I don't watch videos about repairs much on these trucks. I don't watch repairs on a lot. It's very, very rare that I watch a YouTube video anymore on how to do something. Truthfully, the most I watch is how to reset oil lights. If I'm doing an oil change on something I've never done an oil change on, and I know that the oil life needs to be reset, that's about the only stuff I watch anymore. So. Yeah. We are 20 minutes over an hour. I don't know. Do you guys want me to end it now, or do you want me to keep babbling on about stuff? I think we're up to four people, and now we're down to DF Repair and Dunbar. I appreciate you guys sticking around. I appreciate anybody watching this afterwards. I just, every time I put one of these out and I see the views, my views don't go crazy on live streams afterwards, but I see the views go up. It just blows me away that somebody would enjoy listening to me talk. But I guess it's kind of like a podcast. You could turn this on and just listen, because I'm not really doing anything. I'm just talking to a camera, and it's humbling to me. Then again, maybe people listen to me because they think I'm an idiot. I don't know, but that's fine. That's fine. I mean, maybe I'm comical to some people, which is perfect. Maybe there's an engineer out there that's just shaking his head at me, and he watches me, and he cracks open a beer, and he goes, "What kind of crap am I going to hear today?" I don't know. Or he cracks a sparkling water because he wants to enjoy a sparkling water with me. So, I don't know. I'll make a video on pulling a cab. I wasn't going to, but I will. It's going to be to the point. No, if I catch something comical, great, but I'm just basically this to this to this to this to this. That's what I'll do. Yeah. That's what I'll do. I don't know. I can't believe you guys want that. I want to film my engine build, my next engine build in the 6.0. I'd love to do a detailed one like that too. I appreciate the no BS thing. Those videos aren't really... Dunbar, I'll tell you what, you stuck around for years, and I greatly appreciate you watching the videos, because you give me feedback. I can watch the video and I go, that is a boring video. I don't know how you put up with some of them. 30 minutes of no BS. It's absolutely boring. But man, you watch them, and I greatly appreciate it. I'm sure there's a bunch of other guys out there watching them. They just don't leave a comment or anything. And you guys are the ones, the views that go up, that I really appreciate, and it keeps me going. And I'd love to get a community together that there's more of us like-minded doing the same thing. And if I could get something like that, that'd be awesome. I probably just need to keep putting out videos. That helps out a lot. Because even myself, I'll watch some people, and if they don't put out stuff very much, you kind of forget about them, and it doesn't come up on feed. But I do really appreciate everybody watching. I remember when I started this YouTube channel, just off the injector videos, I had no clue what I was doing. I filmed before I even edited a video at all. So then I go and start editing, and I don't, I remember, do I leave this in? Do I cut it out? Do I leave it in? Do I add music? Do I not add music? I was looking at other people's videos, and then I finally just figured out that after making some of them, that it's an instructional video and it's not going to be entertaining. And to an extent, I know I still need to make videos like that, but there's another side of me that wants to make the videos somewhat entertaining, so it's not so dry. And it reminds me of videos. I'm sure most people watching this remembers the old videos that you'd have to watch in school about. God, I think I had to watch an old one on sex ed that was just, I think it was made in the 60s, or the 70s, and it's just corny and it was unbearable to watch. And I think there's other classes that you had stuff, but yeah. If I ever get a car lift, then I'll have an idea how to remove cab. Yeah, if you have a shop, I'd greatly recommend buying a used lift can be scary. One thing I would recommend if you're buying a lift is one that has been kept inside. So if there's going to be wear and tear on them, paint's going to be rubbed off, but if it's been kept inside in a shop, out of the elements, that is a big thing. So if the paint's faded from being in the sun a lot, or there's heavy rust on it, I'd stay away from it. But there's really nothing. My lift here, I bet you it's a 90s something model, I'd say. If I remember correctly, I bought it from the dealership I worked at, and I can still get parts for it. I was able to find the manual for it for installation, and it was well taken care of at the dealership. It wasn't abused. I actually used the rack. I worked at that rack, in that stall for years. So I knew how, I used it, it worked. It never had any issues. There's some rust at the bottom from when we would clean the floors, and it, or surface rust. The paint's not on there, but oh my God. Maybe I need to make some videos like that. Actually, you're right. That would probably be a good way to make videos. That's a good idea. Man, DF Repair, that is a very good idea. Okay, so I'm going to go, I will, I'm not going to say that I'm going to do that for sure, but I'm going to look into it and see if I can change the color like the 70s, TV shows where the color is not quite right. Or maybe some black and white would be even kind of cool. And talk like them, and yeah, that would be a funny way to do it. That's a good idea. Oh, boy, you guys have good ideas. I'm gonna have to write that one down. I'm starting to get back into making myself lists to remember stuff. So back onto the list, look for used ones. On my marketplace, I'm like a girl when it comes to shopping for car parts and equipment and anything like that. I ran across a brake flush machine that I don't do a lot of brake flushes, but working by myself, it would be very nice to have one of those brake flush machines just to bleed brakes, because then I wouldn't. My wife helps me bleed brakes, and she never pushes the pedal hard enough, so I really don't get the air out of the system. And it always seems like lately that I always have to have her come. I'll go drive the vehicle and it feels soft, so I have her help me again. But I get on Marketplace and I see a ton of used lifts, and I can look at the pictures and almost, the ones, if they're sitting outside, I would not, unless it looks very good and it's outside in a nice area on like pallets, and you get a hold of it quick enough and you ask them, how long has it been sitting outside? You can tell it's in pretty good shape, and it was not kept outside, or was not, used outside. It's just outside for the time being. That wouldn't be a big deal. But if you could get a name brand like a was it Challenger, Benpack, or um, Rotary, then you could maybe at least look up to see if you can get there's parts available for them still. Um, I definitely check out the cylinders to make sure that you don't have a lot of uh, fluid buildup or leaks. Basically, a lot of fluid buildup or dust around the cylinders. I've only seen one in all the time at the dealership I was there. I only saw one rack have to have a cylinder replaced once. But we also only, there might have been one or two, and out of all the stalls in that dealership, we always had rotary lifts. I'm actually a very big fan of rotary. I like the way they make their lifts. I'm not a big fan of Challenger. I'm not a big fan of Benpack. If I was, those are the big names that I would get: Challenger, Benpack, and Rotary. If I was looking. But Rotary is really the one that I prefer out of all the, whether it be a drive-on or a two-post, I prefer Rotary. The sad thing is I think they're one of the higher priced brands, but I think they make a exceptional product. So, been there, Flush Machine or Pop Best way to Pop Best. What's a Pop Best? Or my Pop? Flush pot? Or those little pressurized ones you can pump up? I've been looking at buying one of those too. I don't know. They're much more affordable. I just saw a Flush Machine on a marketplace near me. It's close. I might be an hour drive for $100, and it was actually one of the cart ones. But I don't know if it has all the adapters. And with the style I want. Is the one that mounts to the master cylinder and pushes at the reservoir. And sorry, yeah, that's no problem. That's the one I'd really like to have, and I'd like to. I know they make a ton of different adapters, but I probably need one with a universal style that basically sandwiches the reservoir and does that. But yeah. I'd love to have one of those. The sad thing is now is my shop is I'm a hoarder with all kinds of stuff, but now I'm starting to want machines or equipment that makes my job go faster. And I'm not willing to buy new because that's just ridiculous, and I don't want to spend $2,000 on a machine that I use 5 times a year, but I'd like to have a used one, spend a couple $100. If I have to repair it a little bit, that's fine, but make do, and just for a couple $100, if I'd used it 5 to 10 times a year and it makes that job go twice as fast, or I don't have to wait for my wife to come down or wait for my wife to be home to help me. Not saying that she's not a good helper. She's a very good helper. I really appreciate her. But it would just make the job go that much faster. So yeah, I've been looking for a lot of stuff, and now those pieces of equipment are starting to pile up and take up room. One thing, I need to get my AC machine. I bought an AC machine used from a guy, and it's one that I've used that kind of machine before. It's an older machine, pretty simple, but you turn it on, it has like a pressure sensor, I think, that's off on it, that's not reading right, or a temp sensor or something. In St. Louis, Missouri, there's a place that can fix it. One time I called them, they said rough estimate of $500 a fix. The next time they go, yeah, that's usually a cheap fix. You're probably looking around $75, and I'm like, I just need to get it there. The times I've gone to St. Louis are on weekends and they're closed, so I can't drop it off. So, yeah. Okay. We're looking at 90 minutes, and that's a long time to be on a live stream. So I think I'm going to shut her down now. I really appreciate everybody for getting on here and watching. I really do appreciate it, like I was saying earlier. I will start. Yeah. Well, you know what? I've got another one coming in right after this. I'm gonna knock this one out to get this one done. The next truck, I'll make some video on this, but the next truck I will do a detailed video. Actually, I might take some from both. That's probably what I'll do. I'll make a video of pulling the cab, just specifically details of things. This is what you need to do. These are the things you need to go after. Because the 6.0, there is no information in the workshop manual on how to pull the cab on a 6.0. It's strictly on experience from me. 6.4, 6.7 trucks have that in the workshop manual, so I will make a as short as possible, detailed this, and try to get into detail on things that you need to do. So I will do that. But I appreciate everybody for watching, and I will see you, if not in a video soon, hopefully. I'll see you next Wednesday. If you guys want live streams maybe a little more quicker, leave me a comment, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot, guys.